Welcome to This Explainer. I'm Dr. Chem, and today we're diving into an absolutely classic chemical mystery. We're going to walk through a cinematic, step-by-step masterclass on how to use titration data to uncover unknown concentrations. All right, let's get right into it.
We're going to kick off our lecture with a fundamental scientific puzzle. Imagine you're handed a flask containing a perfectly clear liquid. You know it's an acid, but determining the exact concentration of that invisible substance hiding inside the solution? Well, it seems completely impossible. So how exactly do you measure what you cannot see?
Section 1, the titration mystery. Let's look at the analytical procedures. To solve this mystery, chemists rely on a classic laboratory technique called a titration. We take a standardized solution, that's our perfectly known titrant, and we slowly, carefully add it to our unknown analyte. We do this drop by agonizing drop until the chemical neutralization between the two is perfectly complete. You see, the exact amount of known titrant it takes to defeat the unknown analyte gives us the precise mathematical data we need to crack the case.
Our primary tool of investigation here is the burette. It's a precisely calibrated tube that delivers our titrant with incredible accuracy into the receiving flask. But since the neutralization reaction is completely invisible to the naked eye, we have to add an indicator. Basically, we wait for a chemical alarm bell to ring. It's a permanent, brilliant color change, maybe from colorless to a vivid pink, telling us to stop the flow immediately. And a quick word of warning, if that color goes too dark, you've overshot the mark and your data is ruined.
Section 2, visualizing the chemical battle. Let's map out these titration curves.
The whole trick to a successful titration is knowing exactly when to stop. And for your calculations, it is absolutely vital to distinguish between two terms that get confused all the time. The equivalence point is the theoretical moment on paper where the stoichiometric moles of your acid perfectly match the base. The endpoint, on the other hand, is the physical, sudden color change we actually see with our eyes in the lab. Ideally, they happen at the exact same time. But remember, one is pure math and the other is a physical observation.
And the shape of our titration curve drastically changes depending on the fierce strength of our reacting chemicals. For a strong acid battling a strong base, the curve shoots almost vertically through a perfect pH of 7 at the equivalence point. But if we switch to a weak acid being titrated with a strong base, the story changes. The curve starts higher, rises gradually through what's called a buffer region, and the equivalence point gets pushed well above a pH of 7. It's a completely different battlefield.
Section 3, the core calculation. Time to look at the math.
No matter what specific chemicals you're titrating, these 4 universal steps are your brilliant blueprint for success. First, you must always write a balanced chemical equation. Second, calculate the moles of the known substance using the volume you just dispensed from your burette. Third, use the mole ratio from your balanced equation to find the moles of the unknown. And finally, just divide those moles by the original volume to find your elusive unknown concentration. Simple, right?
Now, for simple one-to-one neutralization reactions where the mole ratio perfectly matches, we get to use a famously elegant shortcut. M1V1 equals M2V2. It beautifully balances the molarity and volume of our acid directly against our base. It's incredibly fast and super reliable for a one-to-one stoichiometric battle.
But keep this in mind. While equilibrium constants rely on molarity ratios, for acid-base reactions that go to completion, we absolutely must ground our calculations in pure moles. Finding out which reagent runs out first dictates the entire pH of our remaining solution. That limiting reactant is everything. Section 4. Strong versus strong. Let's test out a simple neutralization scenario.
Here, the math tells a very straightforward story. Before the titration even begins, the pH is dictated entirely by the strong acid. Because they completely annihilate each other right at the exact equivalence point, the battle completely neutralizes to a perfect pH of exactly 7. And if you keep adding base beyond that point, you simply calculate the excess hydroxide moles, divide by the new total volume, and find your elevated pH.
Let's put some numbers to this. Say we're titrating 25 milliliters of nitric acid with 10 milliliters of a 0.12 molar sodium hydroxide solution. Because it's a strong acid and a strong base in a perfect one-to-one neutralization, we just use our volume and molarity data. By taking the base's moles and dividing by the acid's volume, it mathematically reveals the exact 0.048 molarity of our previously unknown acid. Boom! The invisible is now completely visible.
Section 5. The weak acid challenge. What happens when things don't fully dissociate?
Suddenly, because a weak acid exists in an equilibrium state, the plot thickens. We have to use complex initial change equilibrium, or IC tables. But don't panic. Remember my favorite rule of thumb. If the hydrogen ion concentration, our X value, is less than 1% of the initial concentration, you can just ignore it in the denominator. This simple assumption lets us completely bypass the painful quadratic equation and quickly find our starting pH.
As we start adding our strong base to the weak acid, it only partially neutralizes. This creates a stubborn, fascinating mixture where both the weak acid and its conjugate base are hanging out together. We call this a buffer region because it actively resists changes in pH, and it is governed entirely by the incredibly powerful Henderson-Hasselbalch equation.
And this buffering action leads to an absolutely beautiful mathematical shortcut. Exactly halfway to the equivalence point volume, the concentration of the acid perfectly equals its conjugate base. In the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, the log of 1 is just 0, which means, right at that halfway volume, the pH of our solution perfectly equals the pKa of our weak acid. It's an incredibly elegant way to identify an unknown weak acid straight from your data.
To survive this rigorous mathematical challenge without getting lost, I always tell my students to draw a volume map. Just logically separate the phases. Volume 0 before you start, the halfway buffer point, the equivalence point where the moles match, and finally the excess base region at the end. Mapping out the volumes keeps your calculations totally focused.
You can even build a master summary table to act as your ultimate cheat sheet. It lays out exactly which mathematical expression dictates the pH at every single stage of our chemical battle, from pure Ka expressions at the very start, to Henderson-Hasselbalch in the middle, to Kw and Kb conversions right at the equivalence point. It's all about knowing which zone you're in, based entirely on your volume data.
But, hey, none of this math matters if our physical data is wrong, right? As we noted earlier, the endpoint and equivalence point are not the same thing. However, by carefully selecting the right indicator, specifically one whose color change perfectly overlays the steep vertical drop of our calculated equivalence point, we seamlessly marry the two together. That visual physical endpoint becomes our rock-solid signal that the theoretical equivalence point has been conquered.
We've moved all the way from counting physical drops of liquid to calculating deep equilibrium math. The next time you witness a single drop of titrin turn an entire solution brilliant pink, you won't just see a magic trick. You'll know exactly how to leverage that simple volume data to calculate the deep molecular truth hiding within the flask. Will you see the invisible mathematical battle beneath? Thank you for joining me for this masterclass. Keep calculating and stay curious.